Alright, how's everybody doing this evening? Back again with another video for everyone. And tonight what I have for everyone is my full review of the Sony Xperia 1 Mark II. So I've been using this bad boy for a good amount of time, and I feel like I've gathered all my thoughts and opinions on it, and that's what I'm going to share with everyone in this review this evening. So hopefully by the end of this video, you guys and gals know whether or not if this device is worth picking up. So without further ado, let's jump into the video. Now starting off, the first thing I want to talk about with everyone is the overall build quality and design of the device. Now build quality wise, this device is built primarily out of your glass with a metal mid-frame, okay? So we have glass on the front and on the back, and then we have a nice metal mid-frame holding everything together. And I gotta say, in terms of the build quality, Sony did a great job on this one. This one actually feels very nicely balanced in the hand with a really nice weight to it. So in terms of the build quality, this device is top notch. Good job, Sony. Good job indeed. Now, jumping over to the design, you can see this is basically your stretched traditional slab. So it's like a stretched square. And I gotta say, I like this design. Sony really didn't try to reinvent the wheel. They didn't try to come out with some crazy futuristic design. They kept what worked and improved upon it. And this is more of a functionalist / clean approach in terms of the design. And I am a big fan of it. Now it is very fingerprinty because of the glass on glass design, but it is what it is, and I actually do really like this design. So in terms of the overall design, I have to say it's really good indeed. Alright, now moving on, let's talk about this display here, okay? So up front, dead center here, we have a 6.5 inch POLED 4K display in the 21:9 aspect ratio. And when I say 4K, that's true 4K with a resolution of 1644 by 3840 if I'm not mistaken, giving it a screen density of 646 pixels per inch. Now if I make any mistakes, I'll be sure to correct myself in post, but I believe all that information is correct, okay, in terms of the display. And it is a Gorilla Glass 6 display as well. Alright, so we got Gorilla Glass on the front and on the back of the device. And in terms of the display, y'all, I have to say this display is really good. Now when I'm using it outdoors, I tend to keep it at max brightness. And when I'm using it indoors, like now, I typically tend to keep it just over 50% brightness, and it works just fine. So in terms of the display, I've had no issues, and I have to say Sony has done a great job with this true 4K display. So top notch in terms of the display category. Alright, now let's keep it moving here. Now let's dive a little bit deeper into the hardware and the software on this device. Let's talk about the hardware first, and pretty much in terms of hardware, you really can't get too much more flagship than this. So internally, we are rocking 8 gigs of onboard RAM with 256 gigs of onboard storage with a microSD card expansion slot, which you can make adaptable expandable storage on here. So that's really nice. Other internals include, we are rocking a 3860 milliamp hour battery. Now on paper they say 4000, but through my testing I can indeed verify that it is a 3860 milliamp hour battery. On the rear, we got a triple 12 megapixel camera setup. Now we got a 12 megapixel primary in the middle. We got a 12 megapixel ultra wide at the top, and then we got a 12 megapixel telephoto at the very bottom with our laser autofocus and our flash right there above the telephoto sensor. Alright, and in particular with the cameras on the rear, we can record in 4K 30, 4K 60, 1080p 60, 1080p 30, 720p 30, and 1080p 120 frames and 220 frames per second slow motion with the cameras. Alright, Flipping it over to the front, we got an 8 megapixel camera up top here with a notification LED. And in terms of the 8 megapixel front facing camera, it maxes out at 1080p 30 FPS video recording. Alright, now diving into some more internals on this device, we do have wireless charging at 11 watts, and we have fast charging via the direct power delivery, and I do believe it supports Quick Charge 4.0. So we do have fast wire charging as well as fast wireless charging on this device. Along with that, this device is IP68 water and dust resistance. So that means you can fully submerge it in up to 1 meter of water for 30 minutes and it should be good to go. And we also have a really nice integrated capacitive always active fingerprint sensor on the side, and it pretty much works no problems. I have no problems with the fingerprint sensor, no problems whatsoever. Just a single tap and we're good to go. Alright, now moving on, let's dive a little bit deeper into the internals here. Oh, I also forgot to point out something very important. We do have a 3.5 millimeter headphone jack on here in terms of hardware, and it is a nice quality DAC on here. And we do have front facing speakers. So we got one at the bottom and we have one at the top. Alright, good stuff indeed. Okay, now diving into some more internals in terms of the hardware, this bad boy is rocking the Snapdragon 865 octa-core flagship processor with the Adreno 650 GPU on board. So this is a flagship 2020 processor on here. Alright, and I do believe that does it for the hardware. Now again, if I missed anything, I'll go ahead and throw it up in post. Alright, now moving on. Oh, I also forgot to point out we do have, I almost forgot, a dedicated shutter button right here to launch you directly into the camera and start photos and or videos depending on how you program it. Whew, almost forgot. Now we've officially finished with the hardware. Now jumping into the software, and this is pretty much going to be my overall experience with it. If you want a more in-depth look into the software, I'll link up my dedicated software walkthrough down below in the video description. But in terms of the software, this bad boy is running Android 10 with Sony's slightly skinned version of their Xperia UX software. And I gotta say, for the most part, Sony has done a great job, and it's fairly a stock Android experience with Sony's slight customizations. And in terms of the overall software, I have to say it has been really good. Let me turn on Do Not Disturb so I don't get any random pop-up notifications there. But in terms of the software, I have to say Sony has done a great job. Now, if there's one downside that I don't like to the software, it's the fact that some of the preloaded apps cannot be uninstalled, so you're kind of stuck with some stuff whether you like it or not. But other than that, the overall software experience has been really good. Alright, good indeed. Now, moving on, the next thing I want to talk about with everyone, so if I wasn't clear, the overall hardware experience on here is top notch, and the overall software experience on here is really good indeed. Now, moving on, let's talk about the overall Wi-Fi in here. So this bad boy is rocking the latest version of Wi-Fi. That's Wi-Fi version 6 with AC Wi-Fi. So that means it does have top of the line dual band Wi-Fi support. So it does support your 2.4 gigahertz and your 5 gigahertz band Wi-Fi, and it supports it up to the latest codecs and fastest speeds. That's the benefits of Wi-Fi 6, and I have to say it is really good. Now I'll have some screenshots of the Wi-Fi performance up in post, but essentially the overall Wi-Fi performance on here has been really good, and I haven't had any issues. No issues whatsoever. But real quickly, let's get into an overall Wi-Fi performance test. So let me pull up a YouTube video here. Now this will also double as a speaker test, so let's go ahead and crank the volume all the way up to the max So you can see the volume is maxed. And I'm going to go ahead and let it play so y'all can see how the speakers perform. Now for reference, my microphone is right there, just out of camera, so it's less than a foot away, so you should get a really good audio sample. So let's dive into this. Then I'm going to give y'all my overall thoughts and opinions on the Wi-Fi speeds and performance and the speaker placement and performance. Let's go. Let me go ahead and push play now on this copyright-free music. Here we go. Alright, let's go ahead and scrub through the video now and check the Wi-Fi performance. Okay. So there you guys and gals have it. In terms of the Wi-Fi performance, it pretty much is top notch, and I haven't had any issues. No issues whatsoever. Now, how do I feel about the speaker performance and the overall speaker placement? Now, in terms of the overall speaker performance on the Xperia 1 Mark II, I have to say overall it is really good. Now, it does get very loud and it stays very crisp and clear throughout, but the one major weak point on here is that it is lacking in the bass department, but other than that, the overall speaker performance on this device is really good. Now, talking about placement, in terms of placement, this is top-notch speaker placement in my opinion. I am a big fan and advocate for front-facing, front-firing speakers. So in terms of placement, Sony did a great job in my opinion. Alright, let's keep it moving here. So Wi-Fi performance is really good, speaker performance is really good, and speaker placement is top-notch. Let's keep it going. Up next now, let's talk about the overall LTE and bands supported in this guy. Let's go. Let's pull up the band so y'all can see. Now, in terms of bands supported, let me make sure this is the right device. Yes, it is. Okay. In terms of bands supported, this bad boy is a GSM internationally unlocked device, but you can see it does support all of these bands out of the box, and it does support a few 5G bands as well. So if your carrier does support and have fully running 5G, as long as it supports these bands for 5G coverage, you should be good to go. And in terms of performance via LTE and the band supported, I've tested this on AT&T via FreeUp Mobile, and I've tested it on T-Mobile via Text Now, and I haven't had any issues with coverage or data speeds. So overall, LTE bands and supported bands is top notch on this device. Now granted, it's GSM unlocked, so that means GSM only carriers like AT&T and T-Mobile and any of their MVNOs. So Metro, Cricket, so on and so forth. So Verizon may or may not work on here. Okay. And Sprint may or may not work on here. Now I haven't tested that, but for the bands that it does support and the carriers that it does support, it works no problems. Alright. Okay. So LTE and band supported is top notch. Now, yeah, let's keep it moving. Up next now, let's talk about the overall Bluetooth on this device and the overall Bluetooth performance. Now, Bluetooth wise, this bad boy is packing Bluetooth 5.1 technology on board, and I gotta tell y'all, in terms of the overall Bluetooth performance, I've had no issues. So here's a close-up of just a few of the devices that I've connected to the Xperia, and they all have worked without issue. So overall Bluetooth performance has been top-notch in my overall opinion. Alright, and that's really good because you know your boy is an advocate for the hashtag wireless experience. Hashtag no cables for the win. Hashtag one cable to rule them all. Hashtag USB Type-C, all the things. Sorry, y'all. Sorry, I couldn't help myself. But the overall Bluetooth performance has been top-notch. No issues whatsoever. Now, moving on, let's talk about the overall GPS performance. And let me pull up my last screenshot real quickly so I can show y'all and we could talk about it a little more. Now, in terms of GPS performance on paper, it didn't perform as well, and you can see the strengths from my very last test were not the best, but in terms of actual GPS usage on the day-to-day, I've had no issues. And that's a big deal for me because your boy is very GPS dependent. So in terms of the GPS performance, it was pretty good indeed. Alright, let's keep it moving now. Up next, the next thing I want to talk about with everybody is the overall call quality and speaker call quality on this device. Now, once again, I have to preface this. I tested this on T-Mobile via Text Now and AT&T via Free Up Mobile. And your guys and gals results may vary based on your carrier and your carrier's coverage. But at least for me, when we talk about phone call quality through the onboard receiver, it was top notch. I didn't have any issues. Calls were very loud, crisp, and clear. No problems whatsoever on either end. And the same thing goes for the speaker call performance. It was very loud, crisp, and clear, but a little bit distorted at max volume, but it worked pretty much without any issues. So overall call quality, whether it be through the onboard receiver or the onboard speaker, was really good indeed. Alright, moving on now, let's talk about my overall experience with the cameras. And before I dive into my overall experience, I just want to go ahead and quickly cover some issues that I had with the cameras. Now, issue number one, and probably the biggest one in my opinion, was the focusing speeds. Alright, the focusing speeds on this device, even with the laser autofocus, were not the best in anything other than good to perfect lighting. So you really do need to have some really good lighting in order to take full advantage of these cameras. And another issue that I was running into, aside from the focus performance, was the fact that these cameras did overheat quite often, and when it overheats, you do get an error message stating that it will close and you won't be able to use the cameras until they cool down. So there is a little bit of a heating issue when using the cameras. Other than that though, let's get into my typical criteria for judging the cameras. Now, I judge cameras on 3 different factors: point and shoot photo performance, okay, how quick can I bust it out of my pocket, point, focus, and snap the shot and get a good shot, point and shoot video capture capability, and audio capture capability. And in 2 of the 3 categories, this phone did a great job. The only weak point of this phone was the point and shoot photo capture capabilities, and that primarily I feel has to do with the overall focusing speeds. I do think that can be cleaned up a little bit in software, but other than that, and other than the point and shoot photo performance, this camera did a great job for video and it did a great job for audio. But I was expecting nonetheless, especially for audio, because it does have a nice high quality 3.5mm headphone jack. So it gets a pretty much 2 out of 3 in these categories in terms of the cameras. Now I've done a full dedicated camera walkthrough slash camera review. I'll link it up down below in the video description. Y'all feel free to check that out so y'all can see the photo samples that I was able to capture. Y'all can see the video samples in the different lighting scenarios, so on and so forth, and you can get a detailed look at how the overall camera software works. Alright? Feel free to check that out and come back and finish watching this full review. I'll link that up down below in the video description as well. But the cameras on here, you know, I was very disappointed, especially considering how much hype Sony put behind the cameras and how much they touted it in their advertising. I was really expecting some top of the line camera performance, and sadly they did not deliver. They did not deliver. I was kind of disappointed, but it is what it is. Alright, so that covers the cameras. Now let's go over my experience with the gaming. Now, gaming on here was a beast. I pretty much could throw any game I wanted at this device and it worked without issue at full speed. And I gotta tell y'all, gaming with this very beautiful 4K display at maximum settings was a joy. I am now once again addicted to Call of Duty Mobile. I have to play it at least once a day. Man, playing it with this display is beautiful. And the fact that I get no issues while gaming, aside from a slight heating issue with extended gameplay, the gaming experience on here was top notch in my overall experience and opinion. Alright, let's keep it moving now. Now let's go ahead and dive into the benchmarks. We're going to try and run through this quick, fast, and in a hurry. You know how we do. So talking about the benchmarks here, we're just going to do it real quickly from right to left. So starting off, we got the 3D Mark, okay, slingshot test. So OpenGL and Vulkan. So you can see OpenGL, it scored a 6,468. And Vulkan, it scored a 6,160. Alright, really good scores in my opinion. Now this is the Disco Mark multitasking benchmark, and this is one of my favorite benchmarks because it allows me to load up any and all apps on my device. It will cycle through those apps a set number of times and spit out the individual app load up times, as you can see there, and spit out an overall app run through time. And you can see this device pretty much scored one of the fastest times ever since I started using this benchmark. Not the fastest, but it was one of the fastest. Alright? And on average, I use anywhere from 17 to 21 apps daily. And I gotta say, this device did a pretty good job. It really didn't start refreshing applications until about the third run through. And using the device on the daily, I really do not experience that many app refreshes or app closes. So that to me means that 8 gigs of RAM is kind of the sweet spot, at least for Android devices. 8 gigs of RAM and really good software optimization is going to give you really good overall performance. Okay, so that's Disco Mark. Let's keep it moving. Now these other two benchmarks are a little bit older benchmarks. These are from the Volemo suite of benchmarks, and this is the Volemo multi-core test, and you can see it pretty much maxed out the test. That's the highest score I've seen on Volemo, with a score of 7,761 for the multi-core performance. And then we have the Volemo metal test, and once again it maxed out the test, scoring a 6,290. But again, this is a flagship chipset, so I expected nothing less. Jumping over to Geekbench 5, you can see for the compute test, Vulkan, it scored a 2,747. Really good stuff. Probably one of the highest scores I've seen in compute tests for the new Geekbench 5. But again, flagship chip, flagship processor, I expected nothing less. Now, compute test, Geekbench 5, OpenCL scored a 3,075. Really good indeed. Alright. and the regular Geekbench 5 multi-core and single-core performance. Single-core, it scored a 751. Multi-core, it scored a 2,768. Really not bad at all. Alright? And we're done with the benchmarks. Now, some of y'all may be asking, yo, where's the Antutu at? Now, sadly, when I searched for Antutu in the Play Store, it did not come up, and I really did not want to sideload it, so I did not feature that benchmark in this video. Alright? But it's a flagship processor, so you can imagine it'll probably score high on Antutu. Alright? But you know, nowadays, benchmarks really don't mean much at all. Okay? But it is what it is. There's the benchmark scores for you guys and gals that like to know that sort of thing. Let's keep it moving now. Let's go. Now, let's get into talking about another important category in my opinion. Alright? The next categories we're going to talk about is the overall battery life and the overall charge times. Now, when we talk about battery life and charge times, there are a few different factors you have to keep in mind, and everybody's results may vary because we all use our devices differently. And when I talk about my results and I show y'all my results, this is coming from an extremely heavy user standpoint, so any and everything that I can do with my devices, I will do with my devices. Alright, so a few key factors to keep in mind when we talk about battery life and charge times is the resolution of the display. So again, this is a 4K display. The overall display technology, so this is a POLED, which is right up there with Super AMOLED in terms of display efficiency. So this really is a very efficient display. Really good stuff there. Battery size, okay, 3,860 milliamps, and charging speeds, okay, 11 watt wireless charging and 21 watt wired charging via direct power delivery. If you have a direct power delivery brick, you'll get the absolute fastest charging speeds. Alright, so those are just some things you need to keep in mind and your overall usage patterns. So let's get into talking about the overall battery life first. And guys and gals, I was shocked. The battery life on this device is crazy good, man. Now, to put this into reference for y'all, with extremely heavy use, I'm averaging anywhere between 14 and 24 hours, so a full day. And in terms of SOT, or screen on time, I'm easily getting between 9 and 11 hours of screen on time. Yes, you did not hear that wrong. You do not need to adjust your headphones. I did say it correctly. I'm getting, on average, between 9 and 11 hours of screen on time. Man, I don't know what type of black magic Sony done put into this device. I don't know what type of software optimization they done put into this device, but that is some really good battery life in my overall opinion. Now, it's not rivaling the Moto G Power in terms of overall staying power, but it's right up there in terms of overall SOT, or screen on time, which is really good in my overall opinion, especially considering this has a 4K display. Now, granted, it does not run at 4K resolution all the time. It only runs at 4K resolution when you're using supported apps that could take full advantage of the 4K display. So that could be one of the reasons why I'm getting really good battery life. And also the way I set my devices up with the black wallpaper and pretty much turning off the things that I don't use regularly. So that can also be a factor as to why I'm getting really good battery life. Okay, now talking about the overall charge times, and I did want to make a note to show y'all the overall battery health. So this is after about 3 weeks of consistent usage. So you can see it's just below 100%, and you can see the number of cycles I put on the device. Just wanted to show y'all that real quick. Now I have the screenshots of my charge times up in post for y'all to take a look at, but we're just going to talk about it for the rest of this video. So in terms of screen on time, I'm tripping. I'm still in shock. In terms of charge times, this bad boy charges really quickly. Now from 0 to 100, this bad boy charges up in about an hour and 50 minutes. Okay, and just for reference, I tested 1% to 100 3 to 5 times, 5% to 100 3 to 5 times, 10% to 100 3 to 5 times, 15% to 100 3 to 5 times, 20% to 100 3 to 5 times, so on and so forth, and I averaged the speeds. So full charge wise, it's gonna get you up full in about an hour and 40 minutes to an hour and 50 minutes, which is really fast. Now, if you don't charge to full, it's gonna charge even faster. I did do some 50% charges, and it got up to 50% in about just under 30 minutes. So that is really good charging speeds in my overall opinion. And keep in mind, this is wired charging, okay? Now, in terms of wireless charging, it did a really good job. Now, it averaged, with the same testing, 3 to 4 hours to reach a full charge. Keep in mind that's charging wirelessly, and wireless charging is notably slower than wired charging, okay? But 3 to 4 hours charging wirelessly is still pretty good in my overall opinion. Again, keep in mind your guys and gals results may vary. Alright? Okay, so that goes over the charge times, and that goes over the overall battery life. Again, feel free to check out the screenshots you saw up on the screen by pausing the video if you would like to know more. That being said, now let's dive into the final part of this video. Let's talk pricing, final thoughts, and overall recommendation time. Let's go, and let me slap this bad boy back in the case, because I've been nervous this whole video about dropping this slippery beast outside the case. Much better. I can kind of relax now. Okay, so let's talk pricing, overall availability, and final thoughts. Now, in terms of pricing, this is typical flagship, premium flagship pricing in my opinion. So this bad boy ranges in price in brand new, mint condition, unsealed, fresh out of the box. It's going to run you anywhere from 12, depending on your area and your tax rate, to about $1,400. Keep in mind, that depends on your area and your tax rate. Alright? That being said, if you're going to pick this bad boy up used in good condition, it's going to run you anywhere from about $900 to just over $1,000. Alright? Now, based on just the pricing, can I recommend that you guys and gals pick this up? Well, if you're in the market for a premium flagship device, and pay attention, you have the money to spend, then yes, I can recommend that you pick this up. You're really going to enjoy this device in my opinion, and you might even be able to work with some of the issues that I have with the cameras. And again, this flagship device offers some features that other flagships do not for a little bit cheaper price, okay? Again, primarily 3.5mm headphone jack. That's kind of gone the way of the dinosaur in my opinion. And micro SD card expansion. Again, it's kind of gone the way of the dinosaur in my opinion. Alright, and this really nice cinematic 21:9 display. Oh, this is really good for multitasking and just viewing stuff in general. Again, not a lot of devices have this type of stretched cinematic display. So again, it's another feature that some devices don't offer that are potentially more expensive. Now, when I say more expensive, I'm talking about your Galaxy devices, your premium flagship Galaxy devices like your Ultra series, your S Ultra series, or your Note series. And I'm talking about Apple devices, your premium Apple devices. So your iPhone 11, 11 Pro, 11 Max, you know what I'm talking about. Those are the type of premium flagship devices that this device competes with. Alright? So, if you're in the market for that type of device and you got the money to burn, can I recommend that you pick this up? I would have to say yes. That being said, if you don't have this type of money, you can find a similar experience in Sony's other lineup of devices. In particular, if you're willing to sacrifice a few features, you can bump it down to the Xperia 5. You'll still get a really nice display, but you'll lose some features like wireless charging, okay? And even further still, you can bump it down to some of Sony's other devices, okay? Like the Xperia 10, and you'll again have an enjoyable experience at a fraction of the price, alright? That being said, how much do I think this device is actually worth, and how much do I think you should wait till you pick it up for? Well, to me, and Sony, pay attention now, to me, Sony should have priced this bad boy at anywhere between $600 to $700. This bad boy would have flew off the shelves, and it would have beat out all of the other competition at that price point. So to me, I feel as though you should wait and pick up this device if it's anywhere between $600 to $700. So you definitely don't want to pay top dollar for this one. Alright? Alright. So that pretty much does it for this review. As always, I hope you guys and gals did enjoy the review. As always, if this video did pique your interest and you would like to know where you can pick this device up for yourself with its recommended accessories, all that stuff will be linked up down below in the video description, along with my extended coverage on this device. Okay? So as always, the video description will be like a one-stop shop for you guys and gals, and you should be good to go. Now, big question time before we get up out of here. Will I be keeping this device for the foreseeable future? Now, for those of you guys and gals who didn't see any of my other coverage, I was privileged enough to be able to pick up this device via the Amazon Vine program. So that means that Amazon sent this out for me to review, and all I have to do is write up my review and publish it to Amazon, and then I get to keep the device. So I was privileged enough to get this for free. But that being said, will I be holding on to this device for the foreseeable future? Now, sadly, I would have to say no. What I'm probably going to do is I'm probably going to sell it at a really great price and pick up some other things for the channel so we can keep the content rolling. Sorry, y'all know I have trouble speaking sometimes. It is what it is. I do apologize for my mistakes. That being said, that pretty much does it. I hope everyone enjoys the video. I hope you guys and gals have a great evening. I hope everyone is staying safe out there, and I will catch you guys and gals in my next video. Now, for reference, this whole video was recorded in nighttime low light artificial lighting, and it was recorded with the rear facing 12 megapixel camera on the Samsung Galaxy S7 Active in 720p resolution at 30 frames per second, and I am using my lapel clip-on microphone to record all the audio. So as always, please let me know what you think of the overall video quality, as well as what you think of the overall audio quality down below in the comments. As always, your feedback is greatly appreciated. And let's get into a nice, respectful conversation about how everyone feels about this device down below in the comments. I'll meet you guys and gals down there. So if you are a customer that does have this device, please let me know what you like about the device, and please let me know what you dislike about the device, or what Sony can improve upon down below in the comments. Let's get into a nice, respectful conversation down there. I'll meet you guys and gals down there. Alright, we are out of here officially. Have a good one, everybody. Peace. We are out of here.